This week we travel to Germany, roughly 112 kilometers slightly northwest of Munich, where we learn about an unthinkable event that marred the history of a small farmstead. 6 deaths and almost 101 years later, and we are still no closer to an answer.
Okay, let's go.
Now today I wanted to talk about the HinterKaifeck murders. But before we start, I wanted to actually give like a little bit of a lesson on serial killer versus murder spree, because I think that people tend to get the two confused. So I thought with like a little bit of a classification, it might make it easier for people to not do that.
This will be very interesting because I don't think I've actually looked between separating the two.
There's always going to be outliers where things might get like a little bit blurred, but deciphering whether someone is a serial killer isn't based on the amount of victims the person has. It's more so based on any downtime that they've had between the two murders. So, for example, all right, 2 scenarios. We have one murderer who's killed 3 people, another murderer who's killed 3 people, but the second murderer is a serial killer. The first murderer had no or very little downtime between killing each of his victims. So maybe he was walking past them on the street, stabbed them as he was walking past. Not a serial killer. If there was downtime between the murders, then you're a serial killer. So effectively, you can have a serial killer who's only killed 2 people before if there's downtime between both of those murders. On its simplest form, hopefully that helps some people to kind of differentiate between the two. And I bring this up because if you're familiar with like most of my cases in the past where there have been multiple victims, I have in general focused solely on serial killers. But that's not today's case. So I'm not going to beat around the bush at all.
Oh.
We already know that there are 6 victims, so let's find out who these people are. It's basically the Gruber family and their maid. So we have Andreas, he's 63. His wife, Cecilia, she's 72. Their daughter, Victoria, who was 35. She had a husband called Carl Gabriel, but he died in World War II. Both of her children, Cecilia, named after her grandmother, and Joseph, who was aged 2. The maid's name was Maria Baumgartner, and she was 44. So basically in like one foul swoop, they kind of cut this family tree to the stump.
Oh.
And you're smiling. That's confusing.
I'm like, oh.
All right. So when I do older cases, I like to go onto Google Maps. And I like to have a look at like the area, and normally in Street View, because I want to have like a look around, not for like anything morbid. I just want to kind of get a feel for it.
Which makes sense because that's what you did for Fanny Adams. But I didn't realize because when you kept talking about it, I'm like, oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah, I do it with pretty much all of them. I just don't always
wild.
bring it into the conversation. And listen, I mean, it's a farm, but I know that it's been 10 decades since the murder happened. So I figured that something would have changed. But I still want to see like the land at least. Not so easy with the HinterKaifeck location, it turns out. You can still do like an aerial view, but you can't do any street views. And like just to the east of where HinterKaifeck is, there's like a couple of little streets that have like little houses and stuff on them and farms. Can't street view it.
Oh.
So I was like, either I'm having some technical issues with my computer and phone, or I need to don my like tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
So I decided not to do that, and I put it away.
I went to go,
Nah,
put it back.
gotcha. The event in question takes place on March 31st, 1922, in a little Bavarian farmstead in HinterKaifeck. And if you haven't heard me say HinterKaifeck 1,000 times already, HinterKaifeck, HinterKaifeck, HinterKaifeck. Okay. At least I think that's how it's pronounced.
That's how it will be pronounced.
Well, I mean, the Germans should really decide how it's pronounced.
HinterKaifeck.
Before we get into the main event, we need to go back as far as October 1921, because apparently there are some strange happenings taking place between that date and the D-Day in the Gruber household, including a haunted attic that led their previous maid to quit, a Munich newspaper that they found on the property, but no one recalled ever buying or having a subscription for, fresh tracks leading from the forest to the barn, but none leading away. And that evening, so now we're at the 30th, so the day before everything happened, and they would hear footsteps in the attic, but after going and looking through the house, they didn't find anything.
Nope, burn it, move.
Now, people only knew this because Andreas went and told everyone. about the strange events that happened, like the day before they would die. And they offered him help and stuff. They even offered him like a gun, but he was like, I'm not having a gun in my house.
Yeah.
Like, I dig that. But then also, if you did, maybe you and your fan band would still be here. Maybe. He didn't even go to the police about these strange things that he saw. Like, even at one point, his keys went missing, but he'll just keep it to himself. I mean, also, to be fair, the closest police were located in Munich, which was like 112 kilometers away, which is like 70 miles.
Oh, okay. So he's like, fuck it.
I mean, they would have had a telephone, though, so surely he could have called. They had phones in 1922.
It's just too much effort.
But then I was thinking about that, too. Like, if he was to go to the police, would they not just think he was nuts?
Yeah. My keys are missing. Are you sure you didn't misplace them? Yeah.
Yeah, your keys are gone. There's a newspaper. You probably have so many answers, so many different answers to everything. Well, what about the footsteps in the attic? Oh, it's an old house. It's just the wood settling.
Yeah. He probably would have got made fun of or something.
There's a newspaper. Well, someone obviously just doesn't remember, but they brought one into the property. You can't explain it. Oh, there's footprints. They're probably yours, dude. Like,
Look down.
yeah. Do you have feet? So yeah, he would not have had anything substantial that he was going to be able to bring to the table
Yeah.
for them to really be invested in. There was also something strange that Cecilia, the daughter, the 7-year-old, would tell people at her school something about her mum fleeing into the forest the day before, I think because of some violent quarrel that they had.
Oh.
But there's no information about this quarrel past that information, so we don't know who it was with or what it was about. Apparently she was like found a few hours later. She wasn't dead, but she was just found in the woods.
Baba Yaga will get you in there.
Baba Yaga will eat your ass. Not like that. Not in like a fun way.
Oh. Yeah, I'm picturing it woods. Like creepy woods. Creepy.
If that's the image you want to paint, you can paint that as much as you want, but I don't know. There's no lead to any of that information, so that kind of falls dead in the ass anyway. The last person that they believe saw the family and Maria alive would have been Maria's sister, who apparently escorted her to the farmstead on the 31st because it was Maria's first day as their new maid.
Yeah.
And like she hung around for a bit and then she yeeted herself out. I don't know if you picked up on what I just said. So this was the 31st. Mm-hmm. And it's her first day at the farm.
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh.
So she died on her first day
That's fucked.
at the farm.
Oh, far out. That's fucked.
Cooked, right?
That is fucked.
On the 4th of April, their neighbor Lorenz, you're going to love this surname, Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Schlittenbauer. But I can pronounce it. It's Schlittenbauer. On April 4th, their neighbor Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Sorry. I'm thinking about you now.
I'm sorry.
On April 4th, their neighbor Lorenz Schlittenbauer saw that mail was piling up for them and thought that was really weird. So he went and grabbed other neighbors in the area, one Jacob Sigel and one Michael Pohl, because he wanted them to like help him go and check out the house.
What a good neighbour.
That's what I thought.
Keep an eye out.
But then also mind your business.
Yeah, I was going to say a bit of a nosy neighbour, but good on you.
I would like to think that I would do that.
Yeah.
But I also know that I'm chicken shit, so I would probably like go and talk to my other neighbor about it and make them think that this was their idea.
Yeah.
And then have them go over without me. So they go to the house, they knock on the door, it's locked, so they can't get in. I don't know if they went to the back door or not, but what they did do is go to the barn door and they would see something they would never ever forget.
Oh.
When they went in there, they discovered the bodies of Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and her daughter, Cecilia, all stacked on top of each other. And they're only covered by like a plank of wood and some hay.
In the barn.
In the barn.
But also what a weird sight, but just weird.
Weird, right? And each of the family members had been killed by like multiple blows in the head. But at that time, they didn't know what had caused it. They were just like, there's damage to their heads. So that's how they kind of knew that that had happened. Knowing how many people actually stayed there, they wanted to go and check out the house because there's 2 people unaccounted for at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have known about Maria, but I know they knew about Joseph. So they go inside the house because there was a little hallway that led from the barn to the house. And the footprints that were found, like the fresh tracks that were in the snow, were to the back door of the barn, which was broken. So you had free access to the house. So it wasn't very secure.
Yeah, that's kind of a shitty setup because normally the barn, that's why in my head I was like, the barn's like
The
opposite.
barn's away.
Yeah, not.
Because it has the animals in it that you don't want to hear, like bleating and...
That's like a garage.
The Germans do things very differently. They're very efficient, aren't they? So they made their way inside the house and they found Maria's body still in its bed and Joseph's body still in its crib. Both had been bludgeoned to death. And I saw like a photo of the setup. I think that Maria, her bed was on the floor beside the crib because she had to tend to Joseph
Oh.
in the nighttime and stuff. So they just went into the room and...
Yeah. Oh. Yep.
They reported their find to the police, who determined that they died on the 31st. And they decided this because Maria's sister, of whom I could not find a name, found them all alive when she dropped her sister off. So they were like, well, that's the last time we know that they were alive. But then apparently the community said that they hadn't been to church on the Sunday, and they always went to church on Sunday. So it's like, well, we at least know they're dead by Sunday. I was thinking about Saturday. I was like, well, maybe they died on Saturday then. But we can rule that out because on the 1st, coffee salesmen had actually stopped by the house to take their order. So they had knocked on the door and there was obviously no answer, but they did notice that there was smoke coming from the chimney and it appeared that someone had even fed the livestock. Seems a little bit strange, don't you think? Apparently also a repairman arrived on the 4th, so April 4th that same day, but also had no luck of getting a hold of them. And I have a feeling, a little sneaking suspicion, that the repairman had come around to fix the door.
Oh.
The door that the murderer got into
Yeah.
a few days beforehand.
So that was my brain going, yeah. So as in the killer called for the barn to be fixed, no?
They had arranged for the barn door to be fixed, but he didn't get there until after it was too late.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
That's what I think. That's just my theory. I didn't see that anyway. That's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Apparently, like, they refer to them as tradesmen or whatever, but not tradesmen as in, like, what we would call, like, a chippy or a sparky, but as in a tradesperson who would come around and, would you like to buy my wares kind of person.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, someone even came outside with, like, a lantern and blinded them with it. I've never seen, like, a gas or a candlelit lantern that's ever been bright enough to blind a person.
Yeah, like it would not, you wouldn't know. That's dim as shit.
Let's throw a spanner in the works. So as I mentioned earlier, the closest police were in Munich, right? Mm-hmm. Which today is about an hour and 20 minutes of travel. Mm-hmm. So it could have been far worse at the time. Depends on the roads, depends on the vehicles, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine there would have been, like, HinterKaifeck is so just out of the way of anything. I can't imagine that people would have been driving through there. So, you know, there wouldn't have been traffic.
Yeah.
But it took a minute to get there. Well, somewhere between alerting the police and the police arriving to the farm, our do-gooder neighbors decided to tell their family and other HinterKaifeck locals who decided to come round to the house where the dead people were and walk around the property and the barn and touch things, unintentionally destroying the evidence.
I can't. I was going to say that is a very European thing, though, for, like, the dead to be like, come here and look, like, you know, if it's someone you know. But, yeah, to walk through and touch everything, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, stay back and from far back.
I wonder if that comes today with any criminal charges, like destroying a crime scene or...
Surely.
It would have to. It's strange that it didn't back then. Anyway, by the time George Reingruber, he was the lead investigator, arrived, the investigation was already compromised. So good luck. I don't know what you're planning to find at that particular time. So the locals really screwed the pooch on this one. But George came to the conclusion somehow, with the messed up crime scene and no forensic testing whatsoever, that the 5 of them have been lured out one by one before the killer went back inside the house to kill the others.
Oh, shit.
Again, he's making this
Yeah.
a thing because they don't know.
Yeah.
So the autopsies take place the following day, which I thought originally was actually kind of quick. Like the following day, a coroner autopsies. Are you kidding?
Like to get the bodies out and to,
Yeah, to get them down to Munich because there's not going to be a coroner in HinterKaifeck. Are you joking?
Yeah.
So to get them down there and to get them seen
It's quick.
is either a slow news day
Yeah.
or there was some type of priority
Yeah.
that was put on seeing to these people.
Yeah, that seems really quick.
I thought so. The coroner, Dr. Almula, determined that they had all suffered blunt force trauma from a mattock.
I don't like it. Yeah, that's gross.
The only difference being that Cecilia Sr. showed signs of strangulation, whereas the others did not. And on top of that, Cecilia Jr. didn't actually die from the attack. She obviously was wounded, so she died from a mixture of her wounds, suffocation, because she was at the bottom of that pile with all the dead adults on top
Oh.
of her, and shock.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so she hadn't actually died straight away. Further to the autopsy, they actually found clumps of her own hair in her hands and bald patches in her scalp, which they think was from her trying to maybe pull the hay off of herself.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, so this poor little girl kind of dealt with, I don't know, would you call that I mean, she was alive at the whole time and she died from shock.
Mm-hmm.
So, it would have been very traumatic for the poor little thing.
I wonder if the killer thought she was dead, or if they knew that she was still alive and they were just kind of like, oh, she's going to bleed. You know what I mean? Like, did they think she was dead and then piled them all up, or was that because that's far... Ooh.
Well, being hit with a mattock in the head, I'm going to say it's probably either going to knock you out or concuss you. So when they probably piled the other bodies, they would have thought she was dead, I reckon, because she would have been out cold.
It's so weird piling the bodies. Like, obviously killing a whole bunch of people is fucking weird. But, like, to pile them up like that, like, that's very particular. Weird.
I don't disagree. I just
Yeah.
don't have an opinion on it. I don't understand either why they would have done it.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
I
like,
don't...
that's weird.
It's weird, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm not questioning why they would have piled bodies on top of each other. I'm questioning why they would have gone into this house and killed this entire family. That to me is more like...
I'm like, why did he pile
But
the bodies?
including like a maid who just started there and a 2-year-old who was sleeping in their crib, like, I don't know. Anyway, so we now have like an idea of how they died. So let's get an idea of the investigation and some theories surrounding the murder. So it turns out that over the years, there's been like over 100 suspects for who they thought may have either done this or played a part in the murder. Seems like a lot considering there's not many people in the area.
I was just about to say that. It's a lot.
Yeah. I'm only going to go over like 2 of them today, but I was able to find a plethora of information with other people's names and stuff in them. So go and have a look at them, but I just looked at the 2 that were like kind of most interesting to me.
Yeah.
They might not be to you, but to me, they kind of stood out as like, okay. And what better place to start than with the man who rallied his neighbors himself, Lorenz Schlittenbauer. For some reason, I've written who smelt it, dealt it. But I guess that kind of works in this case too. Like, he saw it.
Yeah, which I didn't think of at first, but it's kind of like, hey, you guys.
Yeah, like, look what... Like,
Oh my gosh.
and that makes sense too, because it's kind of like he's conveniently saw this thing and then went and got his neighbors to go with him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like...
Yeah.
Is there a chance that maybe he actually had something to do with this? Anyway, that's not part of what really entered the investigation, but in this theory, Lorenz was the suspected killer, as rumor has it that he was actually Joseph's father. But it's such a weak source because the only thing that they hung this on was a nickname that he called Joseph, which is mein Büberl, which means my boy. So that's a very lukewarm lead.
Yeah, old people are always like, oh, my little one. Like,
Yeah.
oh, come here, little one.
Like, I don't know how old Lorenz is. Like, your son.
Yeah.
I call him Bubba.
Yeah, like, come here, my little one.
Yeah,
like,
come here, little Bubba.
Yeah.
And he's, like, not a Bubba. He's a Bubba in my heart. But he's not like a Bubba.
Well, you're
A
his
Bubba
son.
Bubba. Yeah, apparently I'm his son. I found out recently, which is hilarious. I love that. Thanks, Dad. Now, apparently, Lorenz, he would accuse Andreas of being Joseph's father. Do you remember who Andreas was? Victoria's dad?
Wait. So he's saying that he slept with his daughter.
That's what Lorenz is saying, that Joseph was the product of an incestuous relationship. And he was going to go forward and complain about it, but then Victoria said, no, please don't. So he didn't.
What is with all this small town drama?
I know.
Well, your dad, what is it? Your granddad is your dad. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm my own grandpa. First of all, as well, I don't like I get it with investigations and shit. Like, obviously it's coming to light because something bad has happened. But I always hate how these kind of details come out when they're dead and they can't, back it up or be there to be like, well, no, actually, that's not true. Here's the proof. Like, they can't.
This brings me to a fact that you're not going to like. 7 years prior to the murders, Andreas and Victoria were actually accused of incest by an unknown party. And where there is smoke, there is fire, gal. They were put on trial due to the claim and they were found guilty. And Andreas had to serve a year in prison. And Victoria, she had to either serve like a month or a year. The documentation's real foggy, girl. So it's like, it was either a month or a year that she served in prison, which leads us back to Lorenz saying that obviously Andreas was Joseph's father, granddad, and Victoria's brother-son.
So scratch everything that I said. These people actually did it.
That's why I was smiling at you. I was like,
what? What have
get
I
in there, girl.
What have I done?
I'm about to tell you.
Far out.
Like, I agree with you, though. It's like when someone doesn't have a voice anymore, like, how dare you chuck these accusations and shit at them? But it's like, well, wait.
Hang on a minute. They've been to trial about this. Oh, come on, guys. Stop the incestuals. Oh, I don't like that.
It's everywhere, though. It's everywhere.
It's freaking everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And it's
it really,
all in your cases.
But I'm sorry. But it also just makes me side-eye people. I side-eye families the fuck. Because I'm like, if it's that common, then there are chances that it happens a lot. A lot more than we would probably ever want to, like, imagine. So another theory is that Victoria's husband wasn't actually dead. See, the thing is, and this is what made people think that, is Andreas wasn't the farm owner, Victoria was, because she was left it from her deceased husband. Because he owned it when he died, his assets went to her. So she actually owned this property, right?
The plot
thickens. Yeah, so it went to her once he had died. And some people claimed that Carl actually knew that his father-in-law sired their daughter. I don't know. That's actually interesting. I don't know what year he died and what year Joseph was born. Because we're pretty certain that Joseph is not Carl's son. So people claim that Carl actually knew that his father-in-law sired their daughter, which is why he moved out several months before even going to war, into World War II, to live with his parents again. So they think that he found out and then he was kind of out of there. And on top of that, he was reported as killed in action, right? KIA. Nobody was found. So that's what led them to the theory of maybe Carl actually came back and took out his revenge on the whole lot of them.
Wild.
But that's the thing. It's kind of like, this is one of those you can make your own adventures.
Yeah. Because then that would make sense why you kill a child. Like, not that you should kill children, but if it's like an incestual.
Here are a couple of weird little facts. So, do you know how there was smoke coming from the chimney when the coffee man visited the house?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, according to the police, they believe that the murderer actually stayed in the home for days after killing the family. So he kind of made it his own home for a bit before he took off.
Ah. Which would be why the bodies were stacked, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's a big barn. You don't need to stack them. You could just, and it sounds vulgar, but you could just toss them in there. You don't have to stack them. But I mean, he's also I heard the act of, not in this case particularly, but with the way their minds work, is the act of trying to conceal is an act of shame. You're shameful of what you've done. You don't want to see them.
Yeah.
So you're trying to hide the bodies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, but to make it harder on themselves and anyone who wanted to investigate the crime scene later, the farm was completely demolished less than a year after the event took place. It did, however, uncover the mattock that was used, and they also found a penknife, which previously apparently lay in the barn. Another weird thing is that after the autopsy was done, the coroner removed their heads, wild, I know, and sent them down to Munich for more of an in-depth examination. What they're trying to find, I don't know. They already knew that it was a mattock that did the damage. So what else is there to find out? Let me tell you. So even wilder is it's reported that these 6 skulls were then taken to clairvoyants.
What?
to get leads because they kept hitting dead ends. And they just thought that they could communicate with them and like get more information that they couldn't get. Maybe their skulls would talk to them.
Yeah.
Nothing came of that at all. The bodies were buried in a cemetery, I think, in HinterKaifeck or locally. But the heads were not, because the heads got lost to time. Something about World War II and the upheaval, and they got moved somehow, and they just got lost. So the bodies that are buried are all headless.
That's wild.
The investigation will be opened twice since then, once in 1999, where an elderly woman claimed that her former landlord admitted to having information about the killings, but apparently the landlord made this claim back in 1935 and has since passed away.
Why would you wait that long? As in for her to...
Yeah. Maybe, well, I was thinking that too, and I was like, well, maybe she had Alzheimer's or dementia, or she had something, and she brought it up because it was a memory that popped in, because apparently they pop in before you go. That's kind of grim. But they just come back to you, and maybe she said, oh, wait, I remember this, and then told someone, and then by that time it was too late. And the second time would be in 2007, where the Thurston Fieldbrook Police Academy used modern techniques to investigate the case and were able to rule out 99.999% of the people that were suspected of this murder. However, as that suspect had since died, and out of respect for their family and the living memory of the deceased, they decided that they would never release that name.
What?
And to this day, they have not.
What?
Yeah.
So a suspect for murdering don't want to release his name.
Yeah. Apparently not for respect of that suspect, but for their living relatives.
What?
Like there's a part of me that kind of gets it, because then it's like,
What if it's not?
no, not even that.
Oh.
It's like, what if these people are now held responsible by the community for something their ancestor did that had nothing to do with them whatsoever? Like, that to me, like, I would, if I did something shit, I would hate for any of my family to be held responsible for an action that I had done.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that in my mind, that's the reason they didn't really want to get into that. If they even found this person at all. Perhaps they didn't. And perhaps they were just talking
Saying
shit.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's just where my mind went. So that could also be wrong. But there you have it. That's today's case on the mysterious HinterKaifeck murders. So tell us, who do you think did it? Was it the neighbor, a not-so-dead husband seeking revenge, a stranger, or a ghost in the attic?
Yeah, fuck. That was wild.
Wild.
I have so many questions, and my brain's just like...
Yeah.
That really got me thinking.
It's definitely an interesting one. And for those who are listening, you can actually let us know by using the interactive feature on Spotify or by checking out our link tree and Instagram and sending us a message that way. So if there's any cases on there as well that you're desperate to hear about, please let us know and we will absolutely happily do those.
Do it.
All right, well,
Goodbye.
bye.